the special tax regimes. So I know each of them is a whole day seminar on its own, right? So they have their own intricacies. So just at a very high simplistic level, how does the special tax regime, which is I believe it's called the Beckham Law, how does it work in Spain? Very high level.
Okay, so very high level. I mean, it's a special tax regime that it was made for people from outside of Spain that they wanted to come live here in Spain.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, there are some requirements that people need to meet. The main requirement is that you need to be employed by a Spanish company. The other requirement would be that you cannot be the director of the company, so you cannot employ yourself. And then the other main requirement is that you can have been tax resident in Spain for the past 10 years. The advantages of being on the Beckham Law is that instead of going through the progressive tax rate, you are taxed based on a flat rate of 24%, which is way more advantageous than being on the progressive tax rate. So it's 24% flat rate for the first 600,000, and then once you go over this 600,000, you automatically go to the 47%. This was made basically for very famous people, such as or either footballers but now they don't really use it anymore because their salaries are so high that these 600,000 are not enough for them. So
okay. Right. So 24%, that's like half of what the regular rate could be. So that could be pretty attractive. But it is, again, it's very nuanced. So it's a company that the foreigner cannot own. Yes. But they must be employed. So I guess they'll need to come to a professional team like yourself to help get it structured.
Yes. One structure that we are pretty common. Normally we've done this with several clients, kind of like to help them to apply to the Beckham Law. We have created this structure where our firm just incorporates the company, and we act as kind of like a fiduciary. We act as directors and shareholders of the company, and then we employ these people. And then with this way, they are able to apply for the Beckham Law. And also, I didn't mention the Beckham Law. It lasts 6 years. After these 6 years, they can either decide to move somewhere else or they become Spanish tax residents.
Okay, so 6 years, 24%, and you need a professional firm like yourself to help set it up. Of course, there'll be fees.
Or you have like a normal company hire you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's Spain. Augusto, what's going on in Portugal? Let's talk about the NHR. I know it's very intricate, but generally speaking.
Okay. Yeah. The NHR, non-habitual residence regime, is, well, in terms of conditions to apply for the regime, the main one is that the individual has not been tax resident in Portugal for the previous 5 years. So this is the main condition or requirement to apply for the regime. So we are talking about tax residents, so people that decide to move to Portugal and become tax resident. And basically this regime is applicable for 10 years. And has certain advantages with respect to specific sources of income. So, in general terms, the taxpayer would be treated as a standard taxpayer in Portugal. However, there are some benefits applicable to certain sources, natures or income streams, and also depending on the source of the income. For example, with respect to income from foreign source, there are exemptions available for investment income such as interest or dividends or even rents received abroad. There is also tax benefits in terms of the tax rate applicable to employment income or self-employment income derived from what we call high value-added activities. So there is a list of professional activities that can benefit from 20% flat rate for personal income tax purposes instead of the progressive tax rates up to 48%. And there are, for example, benefits for pension income from foreign source, a flat rate of 10%. And these are some examples of income streams that have special rules under this NHR regime.
Okay, gotcha. Sorry, Ricky, you about to say something?
Yeah. One thing I forgot to mention with the Beckham Law, once you are with the Beckham Law, in Spain, you are treated as a non-resident. So people a lot of times ask us, okay, I'm on the Beckham Law. Do I still need to file the Form 720, which is something that it's very common, a lot of people to ask? No, since you are not considered tax resident in Spain, then you don't have to file. The only thing you have to file is a form that is very similar to the regular income tax, that is just for people with the Beckham Law. And also the things that are taxed at a 24% tax rate are the incomes that are generated in Spain. So anything else that is generated outside Spain, it is taxed in the country where it's where these earnings are performed, or they are, if they are not generated in Spain, these things are taxed in these other jurisdictions.
That's an important point, I think, to note that you are technically, so it's like an exemption from the tax residency that we discussed earlier. So you're not tax resident, and that makes a whole difference. So on the surface, just comparing the two. So on the surface, the Beckham Law, it lasts for 6 years, 24%. On the surface, NHR in Portugal lasts for 10 years and is 20%. But it doesn't mean that one is better than the other. It applies for very different circumstances. So we've seen clients, so generally speaking, and Augusto, correct me if I'm wrong, if it is, especially if we see clients with an interesting investment portfolio where they get a lot of securities income, they get sticker shock because they think they're coming into a more benevolent tax regime, but they will be potentially, especially coming from the US, your effective tax rate will likely be higher than in the US, even under the NHR. Is that a fair example of someone who could be a bit shocked by the NHR?
Yeah, because sometimes the NHR regime is confused with the fully exemption regime for foreign income, which is not the case. As you mentioned, for example, capital gains on securities, the general rule would be that such capital gains would not be exempt under the NHR regime. Well, there are some exceptions depending on the country of source, but as a general rule, capital gains on securities would be taxed. Yeah.
So it's exceedingly nuanced. It's not like Spain. It's not like Gibraltar, Cyprus, Greece, Ireland, UK, where you have this clear delineation. If it's local, it's taxed. If it's foreign, it's not going to be taxed. It's not that clear. It's extremely nuanced, and you go through your income sources one by one to see what the impact will be, to see whether it makes sense for you.
Yeah, because as Ricky mentioned, this regime is applicable to tax residents in Portugal, so they need to report the worldwide income anyway. And it is not a tax regime based, for example, on the remittance of funds to Portugal. It's not the case we have in other jurisdictions.
Exactly. And coming back to Spain, again, it sounds really attractive. Well, 6 years, 24%. That sounds great, right? But one of the things that come up in conversations with people from the US who are thinking about coming over is, well, to set up that structure, there's a cost. So you'd probably want to be earning above a certain amount, enjoying the benefit of income above a certain amount to pay the fee to set up the structure and to run the structure, right? So generally speaking, ballpark, no commitment, roughly what type of cost and therefore what type of income levels would benefit from the structure?
Yeah, normally for the people that we've set up this kind of structure, it's people that they normally have companies. Well, I'm mostly familiar with the US because we have a lot of US people coming that they are wanting to come to Spain. Normally people that they have companies in the US with really high incomes. That I would say to kind of like take advantage of this. I would say if you earn over 80 to 100,000, I think you could take a really good advantage, because here in Spain, if you if you're earning incomes above 80 to 100,000, you are on the top rate. You're on the between 47 to 52% tax rate. So I guess once you are on those rates, applying for the Beckham Law could be a really good advantage.
Mm-hmm. Right. And to your point, so technically you're not tax resident. So you can run those companies from Spain, and the normal triggers around place of effective management do not apply, right?
No, yeah, that's correct.
So you're comfortable. So you can run your American company from anywhere in Spain once you're under the Beckham Law, because you're not tax resident, and therefore not get pulled. The company doesn't get pulled into the tax system in Spain. Okay.
Yeah, and what a lot of people ask is, okay, I'm not considered tax resident in Spain. There, where am I considered? Well, then you would have to, obviously, you have to pay somewhere in the world. The most common that we found, the most common clients that we found are Americans. So this is not a huge question for them, because since for American citizens, they are always required to file taxes, even though they are tax residents or not. So obviously they can say that they are tax residents in the US, and then they pay taxes for their worldwide incomes in the US, and then they pay the 24% here for the income generated in Spain.
Fantastic.
So if you're a 6, 7, or 8-figure investor, entrepreneur, or business owner who needs a tailor-made solution from a qualified team of professionals, we can help you achieve the international lifestyle, the freedom, and even the tax savings you're looking for. Visit us at htj.tax and live that international life.